Hello, everyone. Good morning, and thank you for joining ACTU for this live webinar, which is being organized in collaboration with Crick Software and Montpalau Trading Ltd, who are the agents for Crick Software in Malta. I am Sharon Borch-Kembry, Senior Assistive Technology Practitioner, and I have the honor to introduce Phil Hackett from Cricksoft Company, who will be talking about supporting reading, writing, speaking, and listening for all with Clicker 7. I would like to start today by letting you know that this webinar is recorded and will be later posted on ACTU YouTube channel. You can ask any questions by using the questions and answer. So I can turn, here it is. So you can ask anonymously as well. If you want to post your question anonymously. The microphones are all muted, and that's why your questions have to be typed. So I would like also to let you know that whoever would like a certificate of this webinar, you can send us an email. We'll be showing you the email later on at the end of the webinar, and you can send us your request via email. The questions that you will be asking will be answered at the end of the webinar. Now, I will be introducing Phil Hackett. Phil was a teacher for 7 years and then worked in software development for 5 years before joining Crick Software as an education consultant in 2005. After 12 years of working with schools in the UK, Phil is now supporting customers worldwide in the role of International Business Manager. Welcome, Phil. I give you the floor now for your presentation on Clicker 7.
Thank you very much indeed for that kind introduction. Right, let me just share my screen. Okay, so what we're going to do today is have a quick look at Clicker, and we're looking at Clicker 7. And if you're not familiar with Clicker, Clicker is a reading, writing, speaking and listening tool, and you can use it with pupils of all ages. And I'm going to show you today lots of different ways that you can use Clicker 7. Okay, so when you first open Clicker 7, we get what we call the quick start screen. And from here, we can start writing, which is what I'm going to do in just a moment. We can make something called a clicker board. Now, we'll have a look at a clicker board later on, but a clicker board is a tool that you might use for gathering ideas if you're working with a group of pupils. And then you can put all those ideas onto maybe a mind map in clicker board. And then there's a very clever way that we'll show you later where you can just take that information and send it directly to the writing to help with the writing support about whatever it is you were discussing. We also have Clicker books. Now, Clicker books are a fantastic aspect of Clicker. You can make books or you can access free books already that are pre-made by us. You can access these books so the children can read. They can practice their speaking skills because they can actually narrate the books. They can also practice their comprehension skills and also their writing skills by making their own version of books. So there's lots of different activities we can do in Clicker, but I'm going to click on Start Writing initially. And what we've got here is the word processing section of Clicker. So at the heart of Clicker is something we call Clicker Writer, which is a word processing tool. And it contains lots of different areas of support that we can employ for the students. And what's also really clever is that we can change the level of support depending on who we are working with. But what I'm going to do is start off by looking at, this is called the document ribbon, and this has got all the tools that the pupils might want to use when they're doing their writing. If we're working with things like word banks and writing frames, then we're going to be looking at the Clicker set ribbon. If we want to change the way Clicker is behaving, then we go to the options ribbon, and we'll be looking at that a little later. But let's start on the document. And what I want you to do is imagine that I'm a little girl. I know I don't look very much like a little girl, but imagine that I'm a little girl doing some writing. Maybe I'm a 5 or 6-year-old girl doing some writing, and I'm going to type in, my name is Rosie. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to punctuate the sentence, and then Clicker will respond by doing a number of things. Okay, so watch carefully.
My name is Rosie.
Okay, so hopefully you could hear that as soon as I put the full stop in, Clicker then read the sentence back to me and read it back to me in a very human sounding English accented child's voice. And in fact, we have a number of different voices we can use with Clicker 7. So we have Rosie, we have a boy's voice, Harry, or if you were using Clicker with slightly older children, we have Rachel and Graham that are adult voices. So if you're working with maybe 10 or 11-year-olds or beyond, then maybe you'd want to choose an adult voice. Okay. As well as reading back, it highlighted the text as it read. So I've got visual reinforcement of that speech support. And that is really helpful for children that are learning English because it is helping them connect the words they hear in their mind to the words that they're seeing on the page. Okay. Finally, it capitalized the M of my and the R of Rosie. Now, that might be great if I'm working with a 5-year-old. If I'm working with an older child, then perhaps I want that switched off. So if we go to options and preferences, here we can switch off that automatic capitalization so that we can tweak Clicker depending on who it is that we're working with. Okay, so maybe I'm dyslexic and I find writing really hard. Okay, so you can see there that I've made a mistake, but Clicker hasn't yet read back to me. And the reason Clicker hasn't read back to me is actually because I've not finished my sentence. I've not put the full stop in. So Clicker's really good at reminding pupils that they should punctuate at the end of sentences because a lot of children will forget to punctuate, but because it doesn't read until they're punctuating, then that acts as a great memory prompt. What have I not done? Oh yeah, I've not put my full stop in. When you do put your full stop in, you're doing what I always used to tell my pupils to do when I was a teacher. You're getting them to check their work because they can hear that it's wrong.
I find writing really hard.
So I can hear that it's wrong. I can see that it's wrong. Now, if I'm working with older children, I will just get them to right click and we'll get a list of words as you would expect with any word processor. But when I'm working with younger children, I much prefer to press this ABC button or get them to press the ABC button. And then you get this lovely child-friendly floating spell checker. If they've not got very good mouse control, they're a bit wobbly with the pointer, then they're not likely to click on the wrong thing by accident here because they've got some lovely large cells to click on. Now, if Rosie wasn't very sure how to spell writing in the first place, she might not be sure which of these are correct. But the brilliant thing with Clicker is we can use the voice again. By right-clicking,
Sitting.
we can hear the contents of these cells.
Hitting.
No, that's not what I want. How about this one?
Writing.
That's better. So a right-click on the mouse for listening.
Writing.
And then a left click sends it in and corrects it. So that makes your spell checker much more useful. Rather than children just guessing at wherever the top word is in the list, they're actually listening and making a sensible decision. Now, Clicker is brilliant for working with children of all abilities. We'll look a little bit later at how we can maybe even use Clicker to stretch a gifted or talented pupil, but also Clicker is very, very good for all levels of special needs. And we cater for everyone from people with severe, profound, multiple physical difficulties, all the way through things like autism, through dyslexia, through hearing impairment or visual impairments, all the way up, as I say, to children who are gifted and talented. And what a lot of children with special needs will have is an issue with their working memory. So when they come to do writing, despite the fact they might have lots of good ideas, when they actually come to write, they can often forget those ideas because they're concentrating so hard on the writing that they then, all those great ideas slip away. So what we've built into Clicker 7 is something called the voice note facility. So we can click the microphone icon here and up pops a sound recorder, which allows me just to offload any ideas I've got about the writing, and then I can listen to them back as I'm doing my writing. So let's pretend I'm Rosie again. Okay, I like playing with my brother, I keep rabbits, and I quite like baking. Okay, so I'm going to click done, and that's now gone into the margin as a voice note. Okay, now there's another really good use of voice notes, and that's if you're working with a child in a class. In fact, you might be supporting a number of children in a class, or if teachers are setting work that pupils need to do at home, and you are absolutely able to access Clicker everywhere in Malta. You've got a complete countrywide license for Clicker, so you could be using Clicker to help pupils at home. Okay, maybe the teacher wants to record a little memo about what the child is supposed to be doing that lesson. So let's do that. So, okay, excuse me. Let's start that one again. I'm going to say, okay, Rosie, this lesson, I want you to do some writing all about yourself, and I'd like you to try and remember to use some adjectives. Okay, so then when Rosie gets stuck, she can click on the blue icon there, and that will give her some support, a reminder what it is that she was supposed to be doing, and she can hear, obviously hear a teacher's voice. Okay, so to listen to these, we just click on them. Okay, I like playing with my brother, I keep rabbits, and I quite like baking. Okay, so I mentioned playing with my brother and the pets, and we'll get that to read back.
I like cooking my family and my pets.
Oh no, right, so what I've done there, and I hope you could hear that, what I've done there is I've left my comma out, so it makes it sound like I'm cooking my family. So I'm going to go back, I'm going to put a comma in, and then we're going to listen again.
I like cooking my family and my pets.
Okay, that's better. Clicker does respond very well to punctuation. Let's put in this word.
Amazing.
Okay, now let's change it to a question mark.
Amazing.
Okay, how about an exclamation mark?
Amazing.
Okay, so it's really good voice, very, very expressive. And one way of using Clicker is if a child comes to a page and they're struggling to read it, well, what you can do, this might be a page on the internet, say, you could paste that information into Clicker and get Clicker to read it back to them. They can just press the speak text button and it will read everything. They could click on individual words to get speech support.
Writing.
Or they could highlight a section and just hear that.
Fine writing, really.
Okay, if Clicker is reading too quickly for them, when we go to our options, in preferences speech, you can slow Clicker down or you can speed Clicker up. And for very weak writers that need lots of support, you can even make it speak after each word. For those children who perhaps maybe have a visual impairment, it might be helpful if it actually spoke the letters as they type them in too. So these are all options that you can change if you go to your options ribbon. Okay, the next little bit of support that we want to look at is the prediction tool. So if I click on this button here, this is going to open a floating prediction tool. And this is going to give me some support as I'm typing. So I'm going to type in my favorite. Now, excuse me, favorite is quite a hard word to spell. But look, I don't have to get very far through the word. In fact, I've only just put the F in. And already, Clicker has suggested favorite to me. If I'm not sure, I can listen with a right click.
Favorite.
Okay, my favorite. Now, I want to start typing my favorite sport. But notice that it's also offered those words in purple, which have the same initial sound as sport, because some children will, they'll try and write photo and spell it with an F, say. Okay, so Clicker looks at the sound of what they're typing as well as the letters that they're typing and can offer suggestions. So if, for example, my favorite sport was cycling, and I quite reasonably think that cycling starts with an S, it will still find it for me there. Okay.
My favourite sport is cycling.
Okay. We can also use the predictor to help with grammar. So a grammatical error might be if I was going to write the sentence, we was going swimming. But if I type in the word we, notice it doesn't give me was, it gives me were, but not was. Whereas if I type in I get was. Okay, so it can help me with my grammar. And just like other aspects of Clicker, if you want to tweak it, depending on who you're working with, you go into your preferences predictor and you can change it from just the 200 high frequency words in English through 2000 20,000, 60,000 approximately words in the predictor. So you can use it for stretching gifted and talented. You can use it for supporting those that need need a lot of extra support in their writing. You can even stop it predicting ahead. You can go to custom level and say, I don't want you to predict the next word until they've started typing. And if you do that, then when we have the predictor open, it's not going to show show the words here until they start typing something. Okay. So what we can also do is use picture support. Okay, so if you want, I don't know, if we type in a word, I'm just going to type in the word cricket.
Cricket.
If we type in the word cricket and select it, if you click the picture button here, browse, look, it will automatically find you cricket related pictures and put those in. Okay, it's also possible, if you go into your preferences for pictures, is to switch on something called instant pictures. Okay, and if we put on instant pictures in the document, then we can do this. We can say, I like ice, and then when we type in cream, look, it changes it.
I like ice cream.
Okay. One more little thing in the document. I'm going to write a sentence now. I'll switch those pictures back off for a second. I'm going to write a sentence now that I think a child with dyslexia might struggle with. So, I like to build cardboard models.
I like to build cardboard models.
So some children will struggle with this because there's lots of D's and B's, and they'll muddle up their D's and their B's, reversing them, or the O's and the A's. And some children don't like working with black on white text. So what we can do is we can go into our accessibility display options, and we can change away from the normal color scheme to a custom one. And if we do that, we might want maybe a pale sort of purple background color. Let's just pick that one. And then we'll have a very dark purple foreground color. And I'm going to use the dyslexia font, which comes with Clicker. Let's make the background a tiny bit paler than that. There we go. Okay, so now you can see a difference. So some children will find that a lot more comfortable for their writing, and the font is carefully designed so that letters like D and B and letters like Y, J, G and Q are not easy to muddle up. They've made the font more distinctive. Okay, so let's just switch off those accessibility options for a moment. And now we're going to look at something that we call clicker sets. So any resources that work within Clicker are called clicker sets. And Clicker comes, when you first load up Clicker comes with a whole bunch of examples, and we've taken different topics, colours, pets, plants for food and water, and we've given you some examples for each, some example clicker sets for each of those topics. But to give you an overview of clicker sets, I'm just going to show you this this screen. Excuse me. So those top three resources there, sentence sets, connect sets and word banks, those are all writing resources which would sit at the bottom of the screen underneath the word processor. So sentence sets are just jumbled sentences which help very early writers to build sentences. Connect sets are writing frames with lots of different words and phrases in that they're connecting together to create a sensible paragraph. And word banks are for those children that maybe they're pretty good at writing, but they're going to struggle with some topic specific words. So they're trying to write about photosynthesis, say, and they can't spell that. So you might have a word bank with some of those topic words in. We also have the boards I mentioned, the mind mapping. We have clicker books, as I mentioned. We have speaking and listening activities, the talk sets, and we have matching activities. And in fact, that's where we're going to start. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the examples, and we're going to look at a color matching set. So let's start with young children. We're introducing the concept of colors. So we've got a match the colors activity here. So let's get started. So I'm going to listen.
Blue.
Okay, let's make a mistake.
Try again.
Let's get it right.
Well done.
Okay, and then we move on to the next one and the activity continues. Now, one of the brilliant things about Clicker is it's very, very easy to tweak the activity depending on who you're working with. So if this activity is too hard or too easy, we go to the bottom left of the screen and we pick where it says Edit Clicker Set. And here what we can do is change the number of choices per page, and you can see that changing as we increase it or decrease it. We can change on the little preview on the right hand side, and we can also change the target. So if we want to focus on the written word, we could have word to picture matching or picture to word matching, whatever combination you want. Okay, so it's very, very easy. In the course of a lesson, if the activity is too easy, too difficult, you want to change it, you can do so immediately. Okay, so the children have learned their basic colours using the matching. Then we're going to do an activity on the clicker board. Now this is actually, it's using clicker board, but it's not using it for a mind map, it's using it as a sorting activity. And Tom likes red. So what we're doing is we're finding things that Tom likes and we're deleting things that Tom doesn't like. And then we're going to look at the things that Kim likes. So this is really solidifying their understanding of the colours. Okay, next we could do a speaking and listening activity. So here children come up and they talk about the colours in these objects that they can see. And then we might want to do some writing. So I'm going to do a very, very simple activity now. We're going to do colours around us. Okay, and colours around us is just once on each page. We just have one sentence, and you can see that it's randomly jumbled up the words in the sentence. So I can send up my picture. If I'm not certain about the sentence, we can click on this little button here, the I button, and it shows me a model sentence, but it doesn't let me click while that sentence is visible. I have to hide it out of the way, and then I can create my sentence. Now, if that's too hard for a particular pupil that you're working with, you can make it easier by going into Edit Clicker Set. So I'll tell you something. I spend a lot of my time as International Business Manager demonstrating the Arabic version of Clicker when I'm in the Middle East. So I go to Dubai and Qatar quite a lot. And I don't speak, or I speak very, very little Arabic. So when I try and demonstrate this, it would be more or less impossible for me unless I put the word order in what we call guided order. Now, if we do guided order, and we can apply that to the whole grid set. So if we put it in guided order, flower is now grayed out. It's making me choose the first, and I can't click on anything else except for the next word, which is flower. So it's teaching me how to put together sentences.
The flower is red.
And then we can go on to the next one. The car is blue, etc. Okay, let's jump up to some activities for older children. Let's have a quick dip into pets. So in pets, let's look at maybe a Connect set. Okay, so this is an example of the next type of grid up, where we've got a good animal for a pet is a bad animal for a pet, and you make your decision. And then I think this because, and you say why you think it's a good or a bad pet, what you think it would actually like to do, whether it would like to be in a house or it would rather be swimming in the sea or whatever it is, depending on the animal. That's why I think. So you're helping a child put together sort of semi-independently their own paragraph, but you're giving them lots of prompts, but they have got to pick and choose and connect together the appropriate parts of the sentence. Okay, if they're a little bit more confident, and if you're working in a class situation, you've got some children a bit more confident, what we might do is instead get them writing a bit about pets. So this one, they can write about their budgie, their cat, their dog, their goldfish, their hamster. So I'm going to write about the budgie, and I'm going to say, I clean the cage every day. So look, that's a combination of clicking and typing. Okay,
I clean the cage every day.
if I've forgotten a word, right, like I might have wanted to say the budgie cage, you literally can drag a word into position there. I clean the budgie cage every day. Now you might remember right back here in the blue speech bubble, I told Rosie that she should be using some adjectives. So what we could do in conjunction with this, we could go to something called Learning Grids. So Learning Grids is a library of resources. Okay, let's just clear that search off. 1,575 resources there. Those are free resources to access, and if we wanted to find something on adjectives, we can search by that keyword and it will narrow that down, in this case to 72 adjective resources, and I'm going to pick one of them and I'm going to use alternative adjectives. So this is really good because children have a habit of using these very weak adjectives like big, little, good, bad, nice, nasty, and instead they could use these much more interesting adjectives. So we're going to say, I clean the enormous budgie cage every day. Okay, so that's a combination of using those two clicker sets, which are just on tabs at the bottom, and we can flick between them. Okay, so let's look again at maybe now something with older children still. Okay, and then we're going to look at just a couple more learning grids. So let's go to examples. We'll go to let's go up to the top, water. So we're teaching our pupils about the water cycle. So here's a talking book where they're going to learn about evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and collection. Okay, once they've done this, we might want them to do some writing. And for the children that need most support, we're going to give them the Water Cycle Connect set where they've got all the sentence chunks to put together. For those that need a bit less support, we're going to give them Stages of the Water Cycle word bank. So when they're writing about condensation, here are some great words to use. And then for our superstars, we're going to give them a Water A to Z, where they're going to have to find all their condensation words, etc., out of an A to Z word bank. Okay, so that's a quick view of the examples that come with Clicker. Obviously, I haven't opened all of them. If you're new to Clicker, it's a really good idea to have a play with some of those examples because it gives you a really good sense of the breadth of activities in Clicker. But we're just going to have another quick look at something in Learning Grids now, and then we're going to look at how you can make your own resources. So what we're going to do is I'm going to change the search. So at the moment it says adjectives. I'm going to change that to frame, because if you want to do some more advanced writing with older children, then you might want to look at some of these frames. So we've got a book review, discussion, explanation, persuasion, procedure, etc. So if we're trying to do some persuasive writing, which is more of a higher level writing topic, what we do is we click on Run Now and open that persuasion frame. And you can see we've got lots of starters like I think, I would argue, my point of view is. We've got general words for a persuasion. So explanation, example, attitude, persuade, opinion, support. We've got link words and phrases, above all, certainly, consequently, more importantly, nevertheless. And then topic words are blank, because what we're going to do is we're going to go into edit mode and we're going to say, right, we're going to pick some topic or other. We could take something topical, like should we be locked down with coronavirus, and we could then put in all our keywords. We might be talking to the class about them and saying what words would you find helpful, or you could have prepared this before the lesson. So and we'll have vaccine, we'll have PPE, and we could have hospital. We just put in a few relevant words and then there we are. And if you're in a classroom situation, you could have that up on the whiteboard, and they could be, or up on the interactive whiteboard, or up on a projector, and they could be looking at that and using it. You could print that off as a worksheet, or if you've got access to laptops that lesson, then they could actually, or a computer suite, they could be sitting there at the computers actually working on that. Okay, so that's a quick view of both the examples, well, the writing support first of all, the examples, and then some of the learning grids. So I'm just going to clear the decks, and I'm going to finish off. So got about 5 minutes to go, and we're going to finish off just by looking at a couple of techniques for creating your own resources. So to make your own resources, we go click a set, and we click on new. And you select the type of resource you want. And the first type of resource we're going to create is called a word bank. So what we need here is some text. So we can go to the internet, and I've got a website saved here. which I just found this by Googling volcanoes for children. So there's nothing special about this website in that it's nothing to do with Clicker. There's nothing particular about it. More or less any website will do. You just want a website with some text in on the particular topic you're writing about. So imagine we're doing some writing on volcanoes with our children. So we find this web page. We're just going to select the whole thing. Okay, we're going to go copy, and we hop back to Clicker. And we're going to paste that text in. So that'll strip out all the pictures and any hyperlinks and just put the text in. We're going to choose alphabetic grids there, and we're going to filter out the 2,000 most common words in English language, because I don't want words like and, the, but. I don't want really common words to go in. I just want the more unusual volcano specific words. So let's click create. And there we have it. In an instant, you've got an A to Z vocab bank with lots of words to help you write about volcanoes. So for anybody working with children, whether you're a teacher, whether you're a parent, whether you're a teaching assistant, whether you're in a support service, this is such a quick way to create resources for your children. If you wanted to create a sentence set for a younger child, maybe it's Monday morning and you're asking children what they did over the weekend. You could say, okay, what did you do at the weekend? And they say, well, I went swimming, I played on my computer, I ate burgers for dinner, or whatever it was. You can just type those into the new sentence set window. Then you click create, and it will just put those together for you on 3 separate grids, one for each sentence. If you want to add a picture, that's no problem. You go to the picture button here, and we can search for a picture. And on this one, we'll have a swimming picture. Okay, and it will find you a swimming picture. That one will do. And if you want to change it to guided order with an on-grid model, say, so they can copy it, you can do all that with just a couple of clicks. So it's very, very quick to make your own resources. So you've got these huge number of free resources on Learning Grids, but then you've also got the ability to make your own very quickly. Okay, the very last thing I want to show you is how to create a writing resource by way of making a clipboard. So let's open Clipboard. I'm also going to open Google Images, and what we're going to do is we're with our wrong one, I wanted that one. With our class, we're talking about things that they like to eat for dinner. Okay, so let's go to Images. Let's have a look. So we'll drag on a couple of pictures to give them some inspiration about what they might want to write about. There we go. So you can drag those on and just click and drag at the corners, and that will make those larger. Okay, so we can scatter those around, and then you just click and hold and drag them around the page. So that's our inspiration. And then we're going to, in this one, we're going to make a long thin box and type in, for dinner I like to eat. Okay, and then we might go around the class and say, what do you like to eat for dinner? And somebody will say pizza. Drag from the dot and drop if you want to connect it like a mind map. We'll say, I don't know, burgers, and we'll have chips. Okay, let's do that. Chips. I suppose we ought to do something healthy. Let's do broccoli. Broccoli. I can't spell broccoli. I'm just going to do vegetables. Vegetables. There we go. I suddenly had a mental block on how to spell broccoli. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so once we've completed our mind map with our class, we now want them to do some writing. So what you do is right click on the background and you do create word bank. And that then puts all those words and phrases into a word bank. And with a tweak here, placing the first cell along the top, we've got a sentence starter and key vocab. Okay, so we can use that then for them to write about, for dinner I like to eat. And of course, all the speech support works.
Pizza.
If you right click it, it'll speak. And for dinner I like to eat pizza. There we go.
For dinner, I like to eat pizza.
Okay, so that's a general overview of Clicker 7. We've talked about the writing support you get in the document. We've talked about how to use the examples and also the learning grids, all these clicker sets, which can help with reading, writing, speaking and listening. And we've talked a little bit about how to make your own resources. And we've also talked a little bit about going into options and changing settings for who you're working with. And if any of you are working with children with more acute physical disabilities, you can go into accessibility, and in access method here, you can switch on eye gaze or switch control if you've got some mechanical switches attached to the computer which a child needs to access the product. You can change the look and feel of the program if someone is visually impaired, and you can change the sound options if some sound options as well, which could be useful for somebody who's hearing impaired, and also if they're visually impaired, you might want to think about making it speak after each letter, say, as they're typing. Okay, finally, if you want a bit of help further help using Clicker 7, if we go to our website, so the Crick software website is www.cricksoft.com. Okay, and what you need to do, because we've just you've got Clicker 7 right across Malta, and we have recently brought out Clicker 8. So to get to the Clicker 7 resources, they're still on the website. Click on support, and then at the bottom, there's a link to Clicker 7 and even Clicker 6 actually, but a link to Clicker 7 information there. And if you choose that and go to training, okay, there are then a whole bunch of training videos talking you through how to do all the sorts of things that I've been showing today and much more. So there's lots of training information there for you. Okay, look, that's exactly 35 minutes. So thank you very much indeed for listening. So now I'm more than happy to take questions if there are any. Okay. I think you're on mute, I'm afraid, Martin. Yeah.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us during this webinar, and thank you so much, Phil, for that very interesting and informative overview on Clicker 7. I am Martina Zarb, and I'm a speech therapist who works at ACTU, and I'll be taking on this next part of the webinar and direct some of your questions to Phil. So let's have a look at the questions. I'm seeing that Charles joined us for this webinar. Hello, Charles. Okay, so here's a question for you, Phil.
Yes.
Somebody asked us if Clicker can be used for Maltese too.
That's a great question. So we support loads of different languages, in Clicker. I think I mentioned as part of my demonstration about the fact we've got an Arabic version of Clicker, and we've got Italian and French and Spanish for Clicker. So the basic core of Clicker will support other languages. Okay, so to make it support Maltese properly, we would just need a Maltese speech engine. If one of those exists, then it will plug into Clicker. So a good example of this is if you know much about the geography of the UK, we have England and we have Scotland, and although allegedly we all speak the same language, people who've got a very broad Scottish accent, if you're English, you'll struggle to even understand what they're saying because all the words sound very different. So the Scottish government created a Scottish speech engine, and that just works with Clicker. We didn't have to do anything special. As long as it's what's called a SAPI speech engine, then it will work. Now, putting the speech to one side, there is no problem in creating word banks and writing frames and sentence sets in Maltese. You can do that straight away already, but it's just if you wanted the speech, you'd need to find somebody that can supply a Maltese speech engine. But great question. The other thing that we could think about doing as well, it just needs a little bit of thought, but if you want a Maltese spell checker, then we can, it might be possible to get one of these because we use a bank of standard spell check files. We probably wouldn't have included the Maltese one by default, but it may be possible. I can ask the development team because I know we've had similar questions in other parts of Europe. I think in Romania they're looking at potentially using Clicker and they wanted a Romanian spell checker, so it's possible that we could get a file of those. That's something we could look into.
That's great. I agree. It's a very interesting question. Can they record in Maltese as well?
Yeah, so the recorder is literally just a sound recorder. So you could record in any language at all, or you could even sing into it or play music into it. It's just a sound. It's basically an embedded sound recorder, so that would work in any language. But a good question.
So that's great. So maybe they can use that since we don't have a speech engine yet. Moving on to the next question. Somebody is asking if you can choose your own topic to build on. Can they choose their own?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can make resources on any topic at all. Now you'll find that there's about 1,500. Was it 1575? I can't remember now, but there's a lot of topics already built into Clicker. But yes, you literally, because Clicker is a tool that allows you to make your own resources, you literally can create resources on any topic at all. You can make your own module of work, and that often is what that's often what teachers will do when they're working with classes. They'll make their own modules of work, and that link I showed you, the training information on the website, that's got lots of detailed information about how to make your own resources.
Thank you, Phil. That's great. So they can customize their own topics.
100%.
Somebody else is asking us if they can access and make use of Clicker during the summer holidays. This is a parent asking. I think they can. You can tell us more, but maybe they can access a free trial, or I think parents who attend mainstream can access Clicker, have the license of the Clicker, but maybe you can tell us something more about this.
Yeah, so normally what's happened the last few years is near the start of the new school year, then somebody from I think it's from the Ministry of Education has asked me to produce thousands of serial numbers, and they can be used for home use for Clicker. But if perhaps after this, if you could share my email address after this presentation, if that parent would like to email me, I will send them a code for home use of Clicker, because you are absolutely allowed to use Clicker on laptops or Mac computers at home as part of your license. So I'm more than happy to organize that. So if you could share my email address at the end, perhaps at the will you be sending around an email to people that attended?
Yes, they should be receiving something from our end. And just to also mention that these webinars are being recorded and people can have a look at them again. They'll be uploaded on our ACTO YouTube channel by the end of this week. So they can also make reference to this webinar again.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll also do then. If you still can see my screen, I'm just going to put, it's supposed to be a small fill, but it doesn't matter. It won't actually make any difference. So that's my email address. So if anybody wants to make a note of that and send me an email after with further questions, or because they need a home user license, that's fine. I'll sort that out for them.
Perfect. That's great. Moving on, somebody is asking that Clicker, they have Clicker installed on their laptops, on their PCs, and it's saying that they need an update. They're asking how can they go about this? Should they do it at home or at school?
That's a good question. So if it's asking for an update, it just means that you've got one of the earlier releases of Clicker, and it's always best to have the very latest release of Clicker 7, because obviously when a piece of software first comes out, sometimes you find little issues in it, or we make improvements to it. So you can go to the support section of our website, just where I showed you to go a few moments ago. Go to the support section and download the very latest version of Clicker from there. Okay.
That's great. In fact, somebody else is asking us if they can download a free version of Clicker, and I think it's best that obviously they have a look at the resources and get in touch with Phil. Okay, so
Martina, while you're looking at the next questions, I just want to say something about the text-to-speech engine.
Okay.
So Phil, Clicker used to work with Maltese text-to-speech engine. It was it's still available on the FITA website.
Okay.
And we did actually used to use it. It wasn't. It was created some time ago, and it wasn't the best. And just for everyone who's listening in to know that currently there's an agreement that's been signed between FITA and the University of Malta, and they're going to be working on a new text-to-speech engine for Maltese. Possibly they will be updating the old one or creating a new one. We're not sure what's going to happen there yet. But the whole text-to-speech engine has been handed over to the University of Malta.
Brilliant. That's good news.
Yeah. So hopefully it will. But the old one, because somebody called Luke put up a link to the FITA one. That one did used to work with Clicker, and we did used to use it.
Oh, okay. Brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. I think you just had to choose that voice in your
Yeah,
settings.
there's a drop down. Yeah, you can do it from the drop down here, I would imagine, because that's where I've got, say, some of my Arabic voices I use when I'm demonstrating Arabic. So yeah, I would imagine that's where you'd go, and it probably just appears in that list.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Martina.
That's great. Thank you both so much. We have a question about Clicker 8. So they're asking us if Clicker 8 will be provided in schools. I think, as far as I know, Clicker 7 licenses are available, but Clicker 8 might need to be purchased.
Yeah, so Clicker, I mean, presumably it's appropriate to mention that we're doing a session on, we will be running a session on Clicker 8 later this week. And that's something that that the discussions are still going on about whether Malta will be able to upgrade to Clicker 8, but that's something that's in discussion at the moment.
Thank you, Phil. Maybe we can just tackle the last two questions that we have. This one is about voices, child voices. So someone has the software installed, but they don't have full access. They only have the voiceover of Harry, Rosie, and Microsoft Zira Desktop.
Yeah, that's a good question. So Harry and Rosie are the child's voices that when you first install Clicker, that's what is installed by default. But you can go to our website, go to support, so www.cricksoft.com, go to the support section, and you can download, it says download British adult voices, and those will then add themselves into Clicker. So next time you run Clicker, you'll have Rachel and Graham. So they're a free download from our website.
Okay, thank you so much, Phil. One last thing, would it be possible to show us your email address again? Because I don't think the screen was showing.
Oh, okay. Let me just double check that I'm sharing my, I'll just stop sharing the screen. I'll share it again, share desktop. Okay, is that visible now? It says I'm presenting. I wonder if you've got a window over the top of the screen window.
It is now, Phil. Perfect.
Brilliant. Okay, that's fantastic.
So that's the email address, and anybody can direct further questions to you. I think that's the end of the questions. I don't think we have any others. So once again, thank you so much, Phil. I think this was a very interesting and informative overview. Again, I would like to remind everyone that the sessions will be recorded and will be uploaded on ACTU's YouTube channel. So you can all have a look at our previous webinars and also this one and go through them again if you'd like. They should be uploaded by the end of this week. And please feel free to contact us with any further questions or concerns that you have, and feel free to contact ACTU. I'm going to be sharing my screen so that you can have a look at the telephone numbers and the email address, so you can all contact us on actu.support@gov.mt or even call us on 21653938. May I also remind
Martina, I want to add that also Charles Mompalau from Mompalau Trading, I'm going to publish his email just in case anyone wants to contact the agent in Malta as well. So I'm going to publish that email as well. It's info@mtl.com.mt, but I will publish it in the questions. Thank you, Martina.
That's great. Thank you, Sharon. So you can feel free to contact us, ACTU, or to Charles Mompalau directly. I think this brings us to the end of this webinar. It was very interesting. May I remind you and encourage you to join our future webinars. There is another webinar on Clicker 8 this Friday, and there are future webinars for us2, so I encourage you to stay tuned and join us, and also to feel free to join other webinars which are being delivered by Agencia Sapport. So thank you all so much. Thank you for joining, and have a good day.